Welcome everyone to another episode of Think Outside Yourself. My name's Brendan Schlucci. I'm your host, and with me today is my good friend Zach Bryant. Zach, how you doing today?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So a little background info on Zach. Zach was a JUCO bandit. For those who don't know what that is, we'll get into it a little later. After that, he was a pitcher at Jacksonville University, where he was drafted in the 15th round by the Chicago Cubs. And just a little over 2 years ago, he was traded to the Boston Red Sox, where we currently play together up in Double A. And Zach, well, I'm very glad you're here, man. You're one of my very good friends. And the first thing that I really want to tone in on is your weight loss journey. It's something I know you're very proud of. So you have told me a lot about losing weight. So if you don't mind, please share to our listeners that journey that you went through.
Yeah, so I was always a little bit of a bigger guy, just a husky dude. And then going into high school, going into my senior year, just before school started, my grandpa died. So at the time I was, senior in high school, had a job, was making some money, had a car, and on top of it all, I was depressed. So yeah, you put all those together, and a kid who likes food, it got a little out of control pretty quickly. So, so I gained a bunch of weight, and then that stuck with me senior year and then part of my freshman year in JUCO, and then that's when kind of the transformation started.
Gotcha. And, I know that you were very close with your grandfather. You had told me stories about that, so that honestly must have been very hard. So what was it that, flipped the switch for you? What was it that, made you kind of realize, hey, I need to make a change here?
I knew it was a problem, and I knew that it was holding me back. But I guess I just lacked, like you said, kind of that switch or that fire to really do something about it. Because I would try here and there, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to start a diet, start running, whatever. But in my time at Daytona State, the head coach there, he was the type of dude. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to hear. And he was very blunt about it in front of everybody, and basically said the reason I'm where I am at the time was because of me being heavier, and basically that I should be in a lot better of a situation. But it was the weight that was holding me back. So hearing that, and it wasn't long before the Christmas break between semesters at Daytona State. So going into that break, I had that fire in me, and started learning how to eat right, and really just became a gym rat. And that's where it all started. And I lost a little bit then. I went back to kind of the same eating habits during that season of freshman year. And then that summer is when I really just committed to the exact same thing that I did over Christmas break, and lost even more weight.
Gotcha. Now, when it comes to someone, let's say in a listener's life that maybe could stand to lose some weight, do you think it's beneficial for them to have that attitude that your coach had, to be completely blunt, almost to the point where it's a little offensive, but in the hopes to motivate them? Or do you think there's a better way to go about it?
I mean, that's definitely different from person to person. Some people can, hear that and receive it the right way. Other people really won't. Some people that'll knock down and keep them down. Whereas for me, it did the opposite. It picked me up and was like, okay, I'll show you. It really lit that fire in me, and motivated me to get kickstarted into it.
Yeah. There's some people I agree. It depends on the person, because sometimes there are people that will get fired up from that. Kind of how it is with performance-based in baseball. If you have somebody that kind of can kick your ass a little bit and fire you up, sometimes it ends up you perform better.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that really is interesting. And during that journey, I know that journey was hard, because I've seen pictures of you when you were bigger to where you are now. You're in incredible shape, so I knew it must have been a long and probably stressful journey. So were there times that you wanted to quit? And if so, what were the things that kind of kept you moving, kept you determined?
So by the time I got to that point and really made the switch, I was pretty inspired by, just because at the time I was 240. 240 with no muscle wasn't working out.
Yeah.
So then that Christmas break, I started working out, got down to like 220, 225. So at that point, I was already seeing results. I was already seeing a change to the point where when it was time to get back into it, like in that summer, I was excited for it. I was ready for it. And that really wasn't a problem then, as far as like there being harder days and stuff like that, because it was happening fast. It was constant reinforcement to just keep going. But like in high school, when, like I said, I would go on like little health kicks and like start running for a couple days. And then, like that's when it was challenging. Because it can't be an all at once thing. It's got to be gradual, little changes here and there that eventually build up into something bigger. And so it was challenging then because I tried to do too much, but once it was time to really make the change, I went about it in a much better way. I thought that was much more realistic and much easier to approach and to continue,
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have like a plan when it comes down to it, not just think that like, obviously all that you can lose all that weight in a day or a week. It's going to take time, but as long as you have a plan behind you and you have like aspirations, goals, and like steps to take it, I think that anybody can really do it when it comes down to it. And so let's say you are talking to someone who is overweight a little bit and is looking to lose that weight. What are some words of encouragement or advice you would give to somebody who's trying to get in better shape?
Pretty much like what I just said, man. It doesn't have to happen all at once. Because in high school, when I tried and failed doing it, it was, okay, I'm going to eat chicken breast and salad for lunch and an apple for breakfast, and I'm going to run 2 miles at night. And that lasted 3 days. And then it was, and then I'm in the McDonald's drive-thru. And then, so that never lasted long. But the time when I made the change and it was very realistic, it was, I could have gone about it better, but at the time I didn't know any better. And I did the keto diet. So for me, that was very easy because I was constantly on the go. I was working. And it was easy stuff, like wake up, make eggs. Like that's easy. Eggs and bacon. Lunch, I'd be working. So on break, I would go through McDonald's and just get a couple cheeseburgers without the bun, cut out the carbs, So little stuff like that. And then, of course, by then I was like getting in the gym and I was never I never hated the gym before that. It was just, I was never into it enough or like excited enough to keep going back. So for someone, if I was talking to them that might not really feel the same about the gym to where they kind of get addicted to it, it would just be to keep going. And that even like there's going to be days where you don't want to go. Even on the days where you don't want to go and do something. Like something is better than nothing, So if you don't want to go freaking pull up Netflix and sit on the bike for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, Like that's better than staying home and doing the same and pulling up Netflix or watching YouTube videos. Like there's always something you could do. And I think that's a lesson you'd only have to learn once in that situation, because then you'd see how much better you feel. Like you had the choice to not do anything, but you decided to do something, and you'll feel so much better if you just do something.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the head, and I think those are the most important days as well, is because it really shows kind of like what you're made of, and when you're able to look back on yourself and say, hey, I really didn't want to do anything that day, but I still did. It kind of encourages yourself. And I think that's something that is part of what gets people like more invested in the gym and stuff like that, is the fact that you're able to inspire yourself with your actions.
Plus, I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's the days where you don't want to go and you force yourself to go and you think you're like, okay, I'm just going to go do 20 minutes on the bike because it's better than doing nothing. Those are the days you end up getting your best workouts, because you get there, you're already there. Screw it, I might as well do more. And then I know for me, some of my best workouts happen like that, on days where I do not want to go and I just tough it out. And half the battle's getting there. Once you're there, it's it's snowball effect. You're going to end up going hard,
100%. And I like what you touched on about like the nutritional value too, because I think a lot of people, when it comes to being healthy and staying in shape, the first thing they think of is just the gym and working out. but it's so much more than that. And I think that that's something that you taught me a little bit too when we lived together for season and stuff, like showing me like healthier ways to make things like French toast and stuff like that. Like, could you touch on how important like the nutritional value is when it comes to staying in shape?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's like I was saying before, it doesn't have to be an all at once thing. Like if you're someone that's overweight and you struggle with, you really like sweets, you can find little things that can get like satisfy that sweet tooth that isn't going to be like crushing a pint of Ben and Jerry's. And next, you know, you're 1,500 calories in the hole. Like you can find better ways to do it. And that's what it's going to take. Like you got to know going into it that, I mean, you sit down with a pint of Halo Top that's 300 calories. It's not going to be as good as a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's, but it's going to satisfy the craving. And the big thing nutrition-wise is just making little changes, and then those little changes get easier, and then you make more little changes. And it goes back to it again, it's not going to happen all at once. Make the little changes that aren't going to, like, kill you or make you hate it, and then once those get easy, then you make more. And then by then, like I was saying, back to when I first got in the gym, you see some results. Oh, crap, I lost 10 pounds. And now it's like you get inspired to do more. You want to do more because you like the results that you're seeing. It's working, you know?
That's awesome, man. Thank you for touching on that.
Yeah,
now, you did talk a little bit about your JUCO coach. And for those who do not know, JUCO is short for junior college. It's become really popular in the baseball community. Having a guy go out of high school, maybe if he didn't get recruited from like a huge D1s or Power 5 schools, that he'll go to JUCO and develop a little there, get bigger, get stronger, throw harder, hit the ball further, and then they'll have a chance at an opportunity with those like bigger schools. And it's become, like I said, it's become very popular. So do you think that coming from JUCO as the start of your college career, that JUCOs are overlooked when high schoolers are looking to play ball in college? Like, are you glad you went to JUCO, and like, what are some of the values that you took from it?
I definitely think JUCOs are overlooked. And I know, like, specifically in my situation, you know, it's the local JUCO nonetheless, because I'm born and raised around Daytona, and then I'm going to Daytona State. So it's the local JUCO. So, I mean, a lot of the high schoolers these days, like, you want to post on Instagram. I'm happy to announce I'm taking my talents to Tulane University, Jacksonville University. Like, you want to post something big. You want to post something exciting, get those likes and retweets and the affirmation. But in reality, personally, in my opinion, if you're not going to go to a place where you're going to get a ton of playing time, if you're not going to be starting by at least your sophomore year, then I think and especially if you're not able to go to one of those big schools that you really want to go to, and you're forced to settle for a smaller D1 just to say you're going D1, just go to a junior college. Chances are you're going to get a full ride. Chances are you're going to start right out of the gate, and you're going to get a ton of playing time, and it's going to teach you some of the values that you need to go forward. And especially if you want to take things past college, it's going to help you to learn those values. So I think it's definitely overlooked. And every time I talk to like kids locally that are looking at different options for college, I strongly push the JUCO route, just because if you're good enough and you're meant to play at a higher level for baseball, then JUCO's not going to stop you from doing that. You know, and it's only going to teach you more.
Absolutely. Like, I tell kids like that I coach all the time, like, we have guys on our team that went to D3, D2, D1, JUCO, high school, any like journey you can think of. Like, if you're good enough, you'll get there. They'll find you.
100%.
And I think you hit it so well, was that people care so much when it comes to the college commitments. They care so much about what other people think. Like, they want to post like, I'm going to the top dog school. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I think I shared this with you a little bit. I committed to Miami, and I thought I was the shit. I thought I was so cool committing to Miami. But in reality, I didn't commit there for the right reasons. I committed because it's the U. They have the swagger. They have the gear, all that stuff. And in a way that didn't work out in my favor, we parted ways. And I thought it was the end of the world at that time. But looking back on it now, it was so important for me to go through that because it opened my eyes to finding a journey that was really meant for me, one that could really develop me. And I know that's the journey that JUCO brought you in
Mm-hmm.
because you were able to, like, for example, if your coach never said that to you, who knows where we would be today, you know?
Yeah.
And like a very big thing that is common throughout JUCOs is the fact that you don't have all like the bells and whistles. It takes like a certain level of toughness to go through there. Would you agree upon that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's like I was saying, man, it forces you to learn some of the lessons that you're going to have to learn if you want to play at a higher level. Like, you don't have the Rapsodos, the Trackmans, the different things. You don't have, velocity-based training. You don't have a super nice weight room. And in my case specifically at Daytona State, we had a gym that was accessible, but it was really only accessible when we were supposed to be in class and while we're at practice. So we would have morning workouts twice a week, and I think you and I both know twice a week is not enough.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like for an hour and 15 minutes of that hour is cardio and like getting warmed
Absolutely.
up. But
Yeah.
that's just simply not enough. So like in my case specifically, I have to find a gym elsewhere. I have to find a place elsewhere where I can get that work in. And I would imagine that's the same across the board for JUCOs. I doubt any big JUCOs have a 24-hour facility or are having you. I'm sure there's some that have you in the gym, very consistently throughout the week. But just my case, from what I know, my experience wasn't like that. To where I was forced to kind of venture out on my own to put in that work that I wanted to put in.
Yeah, you have to take control. You had to do it like, hey, this is something that I really want to accomplish. I want to put this extra work in. I got to find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that's really overlooked when it comes to JUCOs are the competition. Like there are some absolute studs and they're like great teams in the JUCO community. Like, what could you compare your the competition you faced at JUCO and to how you faced or who you faced at Jacksonville and maybe in pro ball as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that kind of goes full circle into what we were talking about before, where you see dudes commit to a school for the likes and retweets. They go to that school and then they're just overmatched, overwhelmed, and then they end up transferring after their freshman year to a JUCO. So then that's what you end up with in JUCO. So it's the competition's there. You're playing against D1 caliber dudes, like so many dudes that we played at, St. John's River, Santa Fe, like some big time schools, man. We played some big time dudes, and Central Florida State College even too. They had kind of a later come up, and so from the time. So, I mean, St. John's River and Santa Fe, long history of being very successful. But Central Florida, my sophomore year, they had Nate Pearson, the dude who sits 100, 102 with the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Freak. So they had him. So we played them at Daytona State, and there were 37 people in the crowd. My mom, my dad, and then 35 pro scouts. 35 pro scouts. So that's how it was. And there was so many scouts there, and it was such a wake up because you have the feeling that some of the schools you go to that there's like one or two scouts there to see Santa Fe's big time closer, to see St. John's River, like their outfielder that has 22 jacks, you only hear about it, but then you see that and you're like, holy crap, like it's real deal. And next, he gets drafted in the first round. I think it was, he had to be the first rounder. He gets drafted in the first rounder. And anyways, back to your original question. Yeah, 100% the competition's there, man. It's not at all what you think it is when you're going through the recruiting process. Cause you think it's not D1, D2 or D3. It's below all that, but it's really not, man. The competition is absolutely there.
No, I've heard from many guys that have gone to JUCO that they are confident that their JUCOs could take down some D1s, like some high level D1s
Hmm.
too. And I would completely agree. Knowing the guys that we know that have come out of JUCO, like the talent is ridiculous. And I like for anybody listening, especially young kids in baseball, don't knock it. Don't knock JUCOs because, like for real, like what if you're good enough, they will find you. So what you have to do is what's best for you.
Hmm.
That's what's most important. Now, transitioning to your career at Jacksonville, how was that going from JUCO to D1? What differences did you notice in talent to like the education?
So, biggest differences. I know I told you about some of the rules that, like the team rules that we had at Daytona State, right? The no phones, clean shaven, collared shirts,
Yep.
tucked in with a belt, first 3 rows, some crazy rules, no phones on the bus, the whole nine. So, I mean, stepping on a Jacksonville's campus with none of those rules, dude, I felt like a free man. It was amazing. But then, like you said, you started getting a taste of some of the bells and whistles that you definitely didn't have in JUCO. And because of the mentality and kind of like the hungriness that was instilled in me in that time, once I got to Jacksonville, I felt like I took full advantage of it because like we had a gym. It was behind the visitors dugout, and it was so Gordy Gronkowski played at Jacksonville, Rob Gronkowski's older brother, and so I'm pretty sure that's where all the weights came from. Like their parents donated all the weights from their garage, and we put them basically in like a storage closet, and we called that the shredder. And so we had a code to get in there, and almost every single night at like 11 p.m., I would go in there, hook my phone up, blare music, and just get after it. And that was absolutely something I could never do when I was at Daytona State. So, I get there, run all those bells and whistles, and have that stuff accessible. And I felt like I had to take full advantage of it,
Yeah, and like thinking about it from hearing what you just said, like also I think it's such another thing that's so important about JUCOs is that it teaches you to not take anything for granted. Like if you're like a top prospect coming out of high school who goes to a high level D1 and is kind of just given everything, that doesn't really develop toughness the way it is when you go to a JUCO. You have to grind it out, and then you go to a D1 and you like look and you're like, wow, look at all this stuff that's available. And you really, it gives you a sense of like appreciating it more.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to, I know you were very successful at Jacksonville. You had a great career there. Do you have a specific game or like memory from your college baseball career that is your favorite?
Yeah, so it was the first big game that I got to pitch in. It was, I want to say, towards the earlier part of the season. We were playing against Florida, and I came in and we had a jam, and it was bases loaded, I think 1 out, and I come in and strikeout. We had like a 1-run lead. So I mean,
that boy
you play in a mid-major, you got to take those games serious. Those are the biggest games of the year when you're playing the big dog schools. So I come in 1 out, bases juiced, and strikeout, get out of it, and that was kind of personal to me because both my grandpa and my dad are huge University of Florida fans. So I grew up watching Florida baseball.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So here I am on, Jacksonville University, not the biggest stage, but but here I am pitching against them in a big time situation. I come in and I freaking kill it. So I was super pumped. Borderline emotional. Like I was very happy, and I wish my grandpa could have seen it because I know I could only imagine how proud he would have been. But that was definitely the biggest, like the best memory that I have from playing there.
I bet. I'm sure you saw it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Best seat in the house.
So, going from college into pro ball, I want to talk about like the passion level a little bit. Like us in pro ball, we play 140 games a year, 6 days a week. It's tough. And in college, you're talking about games like that where you only kind of get 4 games a week, an important series, a really important series now and then against like a rival or something. What did you notice about the level of passion in college baseball as opposed to professional baseball?
I mean, I definitely feel like the passion in college baseball is different than in pro ball because, I mean, the biggest thing is you grind all year with those dudes in college, and you all have the same goal to get to Omaha and win a national championship, you know? So when, you get to pro ball, and especially when you're in minor leagues, it's, of course you still think about the team, and like, of course, like you still have friends, and like you don't wish on anyone's downfall. You don't wish for anyone to do bad, of course. But at the end of the day, like, it kind of like you have to like look out for yourself the most. You know what I mean? You got to put yourself in the best position, where that's not really a thing in college. So I think that's the biggest thing that contributes to kind of the that like family mentality that you get out of college. I think that's the biggest thing that contributes to that, and that's definitely like I'm sure you can attest to it too. The first time you play in a college or a pro ball game, like you feel that, like it stands out, man.
Like my first pro ball game, I was in Lowell with the Spinners, and I'm like cheering on everybody in the dugout and stuff like that, and people are looking at me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little different. Like, not that, like you said, like it's not like we wish on anyone else's downfall or anything like that. But our goal is to make it to the majors. That's what's first for us. That's our dream.
Right.
So we're focusing on that a little more than like hoping that every single person hits a home run or strikes everybody out, or we win every single game.
Yeah.
Like where we want to make those strides. We want to get up so that when we can get to the bigs, and then we can find that passion again and want to win. Like if you look at the playoff baseball right now, the passion is like unmatched. It's ridiculous. And like obviously it's something that you need to get to first.
Yeah, and it's weird because like that almost sounds kind of like narcissistic, or you have the wrong attitude in pro ball, but it's not. Like it's just like
so tough.
Every single person that goes up to bat for our team, everyone who goes out there, I'm rooting for them the same way I rooted for them in college ball. You know, nothing's changed there, but it's just you have that in the back of your head. You know what I mean? That like it's not the end goal. And of course, like that's in the back of your head in college ball, but it's different. It's like you're trying to get, recruited, get seen, get drafted in college ball, but it's still everyone's fighting for the same thing. In pro ball, you have to be a good teammate. And if you're not a good teammate, it shows, and it's not a good look. But you have to be a good teammate, and it's at the end of the day, the next step, the next level, the thing you're trying to do is get to the next level. For us, and like when we were in Greenville, that was getting to Portland, and then now you're in Portland, it's to get to Worcester, and then to the Red Sox. So it's still there, but you have that in the back of your head to where it's like I got to look out for me first. It's weird.
Exactly.
It's weird, and it sounds bad saying it, but I know you know what I mean. And I know the listeners know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like a one instance where it's like okay to be a little selfish, and selfish is such like a negative word in the eyes of like the public, but like it's essentially you want the best for yourself. That's it. And that it's like a complete 180 from college, because in college your coaches preach to you like it's a family. That's what comes first is the family, because the college coaches are like they're paid to win, and to win you need a family. You need like a team going out there every day where every guy is locked in on that one common goal. And so like obviously, like you said, it sounds a little negative when you take that 180 into pro ball, and you have to kind of be more like focused on bettering yourself. But it's really not, and I think that's something that like people really have to experience to understand.
Yeah, because even in that environment, you can tell when someone is only about themselves. Like you can still tell a bad teammate from a good teammate, but every player is thinking about themselves and to some degree, because you have to. You just have to.
So and obviously in pro ball, we all go through our stunts and our adversity. I mean, I know I've been through mine. I know you've been through yours. So what, like, if you wouldn't mind touching on what adversity have you faced through pro ball so far, and how have you grown past it and dealt with it?
So I know you saw the adversity that I had in Greenville. I struggled in the first part of the season, and then the pitching coach there, Bob Kipper, helped me a ton with getting kind of the mentality that I needed to have out there. And the first time I felt that out there, I loved it, and the results showed, I did my best to try to recreate that every time I go out there, and I like to think I was pretty good about getting that mentality every time I went out there. And then this year, I kind of faced the same struggles early, and I took what I learned last year and tried to take it into this year about getting that mentality. But it was weird. It was like some days it was there, some days it wasn't. And then once I felt like once I started to turn that around and I was able to consistently get in that mentality, and I was doing better performance-wise, that's when the All-Star break rolls around and I jack my back up. And that only kept me out for like a week. And then, but of course, you go 4 or 5 days without throwing, especially as a pitcher, dude, it throws you out of whack.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
you feel like you haven't thrown in a year.
Exactly. So then it took a couple weeks to get back into the swing of things after that. And then as soon as I started getting back in the swing of things, I jacked my elbow up. And so that's definitely a new adversity that I've never had into this year. But to face it and to learn from it is like the main takeaway of it is that, I'm 24 years old. I've played this game since I was 4 years old. That's 20 years without any injury that's ever kept me away from the game, that's ever kept me out of the game. And it's bound to happen. It was bound to happen. It was long overdue because it happens to everybody at some point in the game, especially when you played for 20 years. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen to me again. It's going to happen to everybody. And so to look at it that way, it kind of helps a little bit. And then taking that into this off season, I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to learn how to train healthier with health in mind. So I feel like the biggest thing when you face adversity is obviously getting through it, and then what can you take from it, whether that adversity is failure or, not having the right mentality out there, and that's what's causing your failure, or injuries and why those injuries happen. Like learning from all the adversity that you can possibly get. And then some things are even out of your hands, out of your control, and all of that is what makes your journey. It's what's going to make you stronger, make you smarter, because no matter what, there's going to be some sort of takeaway. There's going to be something that you can learn and take forward in the future.
And even like building on that, like the one thing that you touched on a little bit that's just so important for people to remember is that what you go through, most likely, if not definitely, other people have been through it too. You're never alone in like the adversity you go through. Any injury you've had, other people have had it. Any like mental kind of instability, other people have gone through that as well. And other people have prospered from it as well. So why can't you? So I think it's great what you said, just knowing that, one, you're not alone ever, and also the fact that you can, every type of adversity you can face, you can always learn from.
Yeah, 100%, man. You have to.
Now, the Red Sox were smart, and I'm lucky enough to be a part of them that we traded for you guys. You started your career out with the Cubs. So I'm curious, what did it feel like to be traded? I knew you kind of grew up a Red Sox fan as well. So was it like, did you feel happy? Like, what was that like? Was it like similar to transferring from Jacksonville as well?
Well, I know I told you about this before, but for the listeners, the day I got traded, it scared the crap out of me because that was during the COVID year, and a lot of teams are making a lot of cuts. So I get a missed call from, or I get a phone call from some random number. I assume telemarketer. I let it ring, whatever, decline it. And then I get a text right after, hey, this is so-and-so from the Cubs. Like, I need you to give me a call. And I'm like, oh, crap. Here we go. Like, this is it. It was a short ride, but so I call him, and he's like, hey, so this probably isn't what you want to hear on your Saturday, but and I'm like, here we go. But he's like, but you were just traded to the Boston Red Sox. And I'm like, oh. So at first it was like relief because I thought I was going to be told I'm done. So at first it was like relief, and then after that, I started getting really excited because I was a lifelong Red Sox fan. I grew up a Red Sox fan, so telling my parents that, they were stoked. Telling my grandma that, they were stoked. Old coaches, friends, everyone who knew that I grew up a Red Sox fan was super excited for me, and obviously I was super pumped because. The only unfortunate part about it was all the stuff that I had decorating my room, all the Red Sox stuff. I had just gotten rid of most of it, so it was terrible timing. But yeah, no, that was a very special time, and it felt like getting drafted all over again, really, because that's the team I always looked up to. That's the team I always wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, dude, I felt the same way when I got drafted by them, and it's interesting that you I misspoke earlier, but what I meant to say was was it kind of like going from JUCO to Jacksonville, like kind of like having that team and like those relationships that you had, and just kind of like having to go to a new one as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's the same as when you have to go to any new place. You're going around a bunch of people that you don't know, and to a whole new facility, a whole new team, getting to know whole new coaches. It's a little overwhelming at times. And I was nervous going into it. Like the first day of spring training with the Red Sox, when I showed up, I was nervous. I didn't know anybody. So the first person I met, Jacob Wallace, I stuck to him like I was his shadow because he was the only person that I met. He was the first person that I talked to, except for I was roommates with Ryan Zephyr-John, but I didn't, we weren't really around each other in the locker room and stuff. So I was right next to Wally, so that's when him and I started to talk. So at the field, I started following him around a bunch, and that's how I met you, and I met Spakey, and that kind of avenued into meeting everybody, But it was definitely, it was a big time, like just a whole new environment, and it was overwhelming at first, but in the end, it was a good thing. Because like I said, I'm where I wanted to be, with the team I wanted to be with.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing that. I remember specifically seeing your trade because it said Bryant from the Cubs. So everyone was like, "Is Chris Bryant coming to the Red Sox?"
Oh yeah, dude. My Twitter was going insane. So my Twitter was going insane, man. I did not expect that. And of course, you got Jeff Passan tweeting. He was the one that tweeted the troll job, and then that went to Carabas tweeting about it, and then everyone else. And that's the only reason it got that much freaking attention was because of that troll job. So, I mean, to my benefit, because I got a bunch of followers from it. So that was pretty cool. I definitely wasn't upset about that.
I love that. So we've talked a lot about pro ball. So, I mean, when it comes to guys who are approaching pro ball, whether it's in high school or college, what advice would you have to those that are like about to approach that part of their careers?
Everything that you did to get to this point, you have to do more. Like that, you're not in your final location. Whatever hard work you think that you did before, like that's not enough. It's time to not take the foot off the gas pedal. It's to push it down even more and go even harder. You have to. 'Cause at the end of the day, you don't just want to be a professional baseball player. You want to be a big league baseball player. So until you're there, and even once you are there, there's still something even more to push harder towards. So to not lose sight of that, enjoy the moment of when you get drafted, and enjoy the moments, but don't take them for granted, and work even harder than you ever have before. Yeah. Now it is your job. That when you get into pro ball, it's your job now. It's your job and it's your life. So.
And you just I love that because like you just have to focus so much on like what are you going to do to stand out amongst the standouts. Like in high school, it's easy to stand out. Then you go to college, you're around a lot of good high school players. How do you stand out from them? Now you're around all the college standouts. What are you going to do to stand out like from
Mm-hmm.
that, and then you get to pro ball, and you want to be a superstar. What are you going to do to stand out amongst all the guys in the major leagues? So there's always more to do. There's always more work that you could be doing, and ways of getting
Mm-hmm.
better. So thank you for touching
Yeah,
on
of
that.
course.
And just one last thing. I know you talked about it a little bit, like what you're doing this off season to come into next year. What do you think are some of your goals for next year as we enter the 2023 season?
Definitely get healthy, get my elbow right, and then once that's right and I can get back into it, I want to get on the mound as quickly as possible so that I can really start fine tuning my command. Because that's what hurt me in the beginning of this season and last season. So trying to really dial in my command of all my pitches, and really fine tune my mechanics and just everything that I can there. And to train more for health rather than just being big and strong, train more for health. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we do together next year. So you talked about training a little bit. Let's get into it. A lot of people find trouble with like the organization and like planning of their workouts. Some people just try and like go to the gym and try and figure it out as they go, or like some people want to have that like laid out like day by day. What am I doing? Like the idea of like how many what muscles to do, how many reps, exercises, too much, too little. How did you become so organized when it came to those things, and when it came to like including what you include in your lifts, or like aspiring to get to the gym and all that stuff? How did you become so organized?
I mean, when I first started, I knew my biggest problem was strength. So at the time, like I said, I was overweight, and I couldn't really run because my legs were weak and my knees hurt. So it just all around, I just had to get stronger. I had to get everything stronger. So when I first started training, that's exactly what I did. I did, the big three: squat, deadlift, and bench, and I was doing the tool bag workouts in the gym, just trying to get as strong as I possibly could. And well, at the time it worked.
Yeah.
Like it worked really well for me at the time because I didn't really have that foundation built, So now I was building that foundation. And then the last couple of years, I would like to think I have that foundation built. So now it's about looking and seeking that information of what I have to do to build on that foundation. And the way our strength coach with the Red Sox put it, for me, you've built the muscle car, now you have to tune it. So switching up my mentality about training from squatting or deadlifting as much as I can to now, how can I make this muscle car move the best it can, So
Gotcha.
and you learn as much as you can from the strength guys there, but not everybody has a professional strength coach, So for someone in college that's getting into it, and me getting into it, when I didn't know much about it, I resort to watching videos. We live in a beautiful time where technology, you got everything at your fingertips. So look up videos of, at the time I was looking up bodybuilders, but that's where I learned everything from nutrition to lifting. All that stuff was just watching videos. And at that point I was addicted to it. So I was just endlessly learning more and more and more about it, and trying all those different things that I see out, what works for me, what I liked doing, and going from there, and just learn at the end of the day, learning what works best for me and what I need to do most, what my deficiencies are, how can I strengthen those up, and just at the end of it, like, it's all at your fingertips, like do some research, learn what you got to do, figure out what works for you and do it.
100%, man. I'm glad you said that, because there are, like, when I was in high school, man, I was the same way. I would go to the LA Fitness down my street and just bench, like, maybe like 3-4 times a week, when we know now that's probably not too good for you. I think like the fact that we have like YouTube, even TikTok, stuff like that can sometimes be looked at as distractions. They can be used as great educational tools too. Not only can you learn like a basis of how to build like a daily lift or like a weekly plan, but also like form is so important when it comes to lifting. And I think that is overlooked a lot because a lot of people will go out there and try and deadlift and they'll be like have their back all like arched and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that when that's not good for you. So definitely, if you're looking to get in the gym, do your research, find out what workouts work for you, and get
Mhm.
after it. So, what? I mean, obviously, we're both pitchers, and pitchers come in all different shapes and sizes. But the one thing that a lot of people will like debate is if pitchers should be lifting as much as say you and guys like you and I do. What would you say to the people that think that sorry, what would you say to the people that think pitchers shouldn't be lifting as much?
Turn on the TV, dude. Look at the big league pitchers, man. They're not tiny, they're not skinny anymore, you know? Look at Spencer Strider,
Yeah.
Quadzilla. Like
Oh,
pitchers aren't like we're strong. We're strong now. You know, that's why we throw so much harder nowadays, and that's what sets you
yeah.
apart, bro. Like you have to. I think that's a very old school way of looking at it. Is that pitchers shouldn't be lifting? They should be more worried about being flexible. Like, yeah, we should be worried about getting flexible, but why not flexible and strong? You
But
know?
it's a
Yeah.
balance. Like you have to find like everything in moderation. Like we can't just go lift every day as much as we can, but we're not going to go stretch every day when there's like we're not building muscles to be
Right.
stretched. Everything, everything comes in a balance.
So yeah, for someone like that, I would tell them to turn on the TV. Like, just look at them. They're not small anymore, you know.
They're big boys. Oh my gosh. So speaking of big boys, let's talk about your favorite person in the world, Chris Bumstead.
Oh yeah.
And I want to know, for those of you who don't know, Chris Bumstead is probably the strongest and like best physique human being you will ever see. And Zach and I have talked a lot about him, and Zach has like a very large fascination with his lifestyle. So, when did your fascination with Chris Bumstead like kind of come into play for you in your life?
So like I said, I mean, I got into once I got big time into lifting and kind of sculpting my own body. I kind of had the aspirations of one day, once baseball's done, kind of getting into bodybuilding, getting big, and like I said, sculpting my own body. So that led me to just educating myself on the topic of watching YouTube videos about people who are bodybuilders or people who talk about kind of that subject about it, and a name that's synonymous in every single one of their videos, and it's always mentioned is Chris Bumstead. So, and like for those who don't know, he right now is projected to be the best who's ever done it. He's the third time Mr. Olympia, and he is believed to have the like best genetics, like body wise, everything's symmetrical and all that stuff. He's supposed to be the best of the best right now, and quite possibly the best we've ever seen. So just because of my fascination into bodybuilding and sculpting sculpting yourself, led me to watching his videos because he's a YouTuber and he drops a lot of great knowledge in his YouTube videos about diet, training, mentality, and all that stuff. He drops a lot of that in his videos. So I started watching his videos, which led me to become a pretty large fan of his. And he also says my favorite quote, it's in my Instagram bio, is pressure is a privilege. Which, you know, sure, you could relate that to sports and like for us when we're pitching, pressure is a privilege, but I think it can be much bigger than that, and it really is much bigger than that, because even for like mental health, dude, like somebody who has anxiety, that's probably because you feel pressure from something. And what do you feel pressure from? Performing at work, for us performing on the baseball field, you know, whatever you could possibly be feeling pressure from. You know, there's somebody that's not as fortunate to have a job, to be a professional athlete, to have. You good? Okay, yeah. No, sorry. Someone was calling me, and I didn't know if it paused. Yeah, not everybody is fortunate to have things where there's expectations.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why it's my favorite quote ever, is because it's applicable to so many different things. To where
Oh,
pressure really is it's a privilege, and I feel like if you take that outlook on it, and it kind of gives it a more optimistic persona about pressure, or anxiety or stress or anything like that, it gives it a more positive outlook. And I think that having that mentality about it can really help a lot of people.
for sure, man. And there's so many ways you can look at it as well. Like when it comes, like like it could like you could think about it as like, and it could always be worse. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm feeling this pressure now. I'm feeling this discomfort that you feel when you have pressure. But a lot of people, an amazing, especially for guys like us, an amazing amount of people would kill to be in our shoes, to have the pressure that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, it is privilege. And like I always think about like that scenario that goes through every baseball player's mind, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter, like 3-2, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, like Game 7 of the World Series, and that's probably the most pressure that you'll ever have on a baseball field. But do you know that you know for a fact that every other baseball player in the world would die to be in the position that you are? So
100%.
remember that, people. Pressure is what other things have you learned from C-Bum? Like when it comes to like nutrition and like say like your lifts as well.
Well, I mean, I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from guys like Greg Doucette, Will Tennyson. They're all other YouTubers. But I mean, some of the biggest things I learned from them is, for nutrition-wise, is to not deprive yourself of the stuff you want, because ultimately that's going to lead to you binging. You have that cheat day, and it makes you go out of control because you deprived yourself of sweets, or you deprived yourself of just the little things that you want. So when you finally get a little taste of it, you just go out of control and you can't help yourself. So the biggest thing that I've learned on that side of things is the calorie counting. And I know I know that you know that I'm very conscious of my calories.
Yes.
So and that's why, because my biggest crutch diet wise is sweets. So
that boy got a sweet tooth.
No, bad. Have to have dessert every night. So the way I make room for that is by paying attention and being mindful of the calories that I have throughout the day. So
Gotcha.
like, with lunch, I'll just eat less of the rice, and stuff. Like, I'll just cut out little things here and there just to kind of make room. So at the end of the day, I can have what I really enjoy, and that way I'm not saving myself for a cheat meal later in the week where I'm just going to go crazy and binge hard, So the biggest thing I've learned from them is definitely kind of the outlook on diet, nutrition.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And were there any other resources that helped you to like eat healthier or like plan your meal and make your meals better?
The biggest help with that was Greg Doucette. He's a former bodybuilder, former IFBB pro. So he really knows his stuff, and he kind of preaches the calories in, calories out. So like for probably 2 years straight, every day for breakfast, I had that protein French toast that you talked about earlier. I got that from him. So, I mean, it's a delicious breakfast. So like it tastes just like regular French toast, and it's low calorie, and it's freaking 50, 60 grams of protein that knocks out a huge chunk of your protein that you need for the day. So like it makes life easy. So now there's less stress throughout the day of like, where am I going to get my protein? Where am I going to get my, am I going to have enough calories? It doesn't get much better than 400 or 500 calories for 50 grams of protein, So yeah, picking up on recipes from him and picking up on just kind of that outlook on diet, and that it doesn't need to be eggs for breakfast, chicken breast salad for lunch. Like, it doesn't have to be that stuff. You can still have fun with it, and eat the things that you like to eat.
I follow this guy on TikTok. It's Cooking for Gains, and basically what he does is he posts recipes of like how he makes certain like meals and stuff like that. But he meal preps, which is like a different way of going about it, obviously. But he still like the stuff he makes looks delicious, and
Hmm.
I've tried a couple of them, and they're great. So, like you said, like there's a world of information out there at your fingertips. So, and speaking on that, what do you think of meal prep? Is it something that you'd suggest for someone that is trying to eat healthier, or not?
If it works for you, absolutely. It's a way to get some consistency. I
Yeah.
think if it's something you can do and you're okay with doing, then absolutely. But I know for me personally, every time I've ever tried to meal prep,
Hmm.
I prep 6-7 meals, and that's my lunch for the week. I eat 3 of them, and then I'm sick of it, and that's the last thing I want
Yeah.
on those
I feel
other
it.
4 days. So then they just sit in the fridge until the next week, and then I throw them away. So it's personally never worked for me. But like I said, I mean, for some people that are okay with sitting there eating the same thing over and over again, by all means, like that's perfect for you, and some people that don't really have time to sit down and cook, then it's perfect for you. You cook it all at once, pop it in the microwave whenever you're ready for it, and then, chow down. Bring it to work with you. Like it can make some people's life a lot easier. It just never really worked that well for me.
So yeah, and when it comes to like eating healthier and making your own meals, a lot of people think it's like time consuming and expensive. Would you agree with those opinions, or do you think there are like easier ways of going about it?
Time consuming, yes. I think there's ways to make it a little less time consuming, but time consuming for sure. Expensive if you break it down. So like if you're meal prepping versus going to Chipotle, I can promise you a meal prep meal is going to cost a whole lot less than
Yeah.
going and spending $11 at Chipotle or going and spending $9 at Chick-fil-A. Like no meal prep meal, unless you're meal prepping filet mignon, is going to cost that much. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So the expensive part, no, but the time consuming part, absolutely. But that's like you could save that for a Sunday. You can wait until you have downtime or a day off, spend an
Yeah.
hour, 2 hours cooking, and then you're set for the week. And then for the rest of the week, it's pop it in the microwave and you're good to go.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that comes from when you go to like restaurants or grocery stores, and like the always like the healthy meals or the healthy sections are like kind of like more expensive, like kombucha. I don't get the hype around it, but anyway, aside from that, it's just like there's a lot of things out there that are expensive that are supposed to be good for you, when in reality you can make stuff that's good for you in general that's a lot cheaper, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about like, the healthier stuff being a little bit more expensive, but still the healthy stuff that is more expensive than the unhealthy stuff is still a lot cheaper than going to Chipotle and Chick-fil-A
Oh
every
yeah,
day.
and like eating out over and over.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's definitely
absolutely.
more expensive than the unhealthy stuff, but
Hmm.
it's kind of the middle ground. I think it's the happy medium of cheap and healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
You
it's
want like we said, you want to keep it like balanced.
yeah. I mean, if you want to eat super cheap, then by all means, you can you can buy all the unhealthy stuff. But if you want to get healthy, it's going to cost a little bit more than
Hmm.
buying all the unhealthy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're on the topic of food, what would your last meal be if you had one?
Oof. Are we talking just like the entree, or like
We're talking like
what am I sitting down with?
you're sitting down at your last meal. You're about to go in the electric chair. I don't know what you did, but we'll figure that out later.
Okay.
But you have an entree, a side, a dessert, and a drink.
Okay. Entree. Give me a big old 16-ounce ribeye.
Love that for you.
Love steak.
Oh wait, I don't mean to interrupt you, but by the way, Zach makes one hell of a steak.
Lots of practice. Lots of trial and error on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I'm definitely sitting down with a steak. For my side, if it's my last meal, I don't think I really need to eat vegetables. So I'd probably go with some rice or like some mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Probably one of those two. Dessert would definitely be a churro cookie from Crumble.
Oh
Has to
my
be.
God, so fire.
A churro or an Oreo cookie from Crumble. No brainer on that one. And then for my drink, probably just some good old sweet tea, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ruined the surprise, but basically what I was going to do is I always have like a game on here, and we are going to have a draft. And our draft is going to be a cookie draft.
Oh,
so
man.
out of all the cookies in the world, doesn't matter, brand, whatever, we're going to have 5 picks. You can go first. I kind of know what you're going to pick, but let's go. Cookie draft.
All right, so if we're going cookie draft, I assume we're going for overall value here. So I'm going to go with the double stuffed Oreos for my first round.
Damn, bro. I was going to take that. Whoa, good for you. Good for you. I like that. All right. This one might shock some people, but I'm actually going to go with the Chewy Chips Ahoy.
You read my mind.
Bro, they are
You
so
read my
good.
mind.
They are so good.
Okay. Second round, I'm going to go the M&M chocolate chip cookie from like Great American Cookie. Or like one of those places in the mall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Always hits different when you buy it at the mall. That's going to be my second round.
Okay. I'm going to go for my second round. I'm going to go with classic Snickerdoodle. A nice warm Snickerdoodle cookie. Oof. They hit the spot.
Okay. So I'm going to assume my second round, the M&M chocolate chip is going to kind of take just chocolate chip. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to use that for my number 3, but number 3, I'm going to go churro from Crumble.
Churro from Crumble.
Churro from Crumble, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go with the Crumble as well. I'm gonna go the Red Velvet. The Red Velvet from Crumble was something serious.
Okay, that's a good one. I got to think of a 4. I want a sleeper. Well, I don't know, man. If I had more time to think about this, I could probably come up with a good one, but I'm torn. How about a peanut butter cookie? The one with the chocolate chips that are Hershey Kisses on top that you get at Christmas? Yeah, that's going to be my number 4. That's a good one.
I do like that. Oof. Now I'm stuck. To be honest, I don't think I have it in mind, so I'm gonna take just a regular chocolate chip cookie, right? Like not the Nestle Toll House ones.
Ooh, okay. Dude, at the Target at the Target by my house, we sell pre-made Toll House cookies that come in they cook them in the store. Yeah, they cook them in Target and then box them up and put them out there. Dude, they're amazing. All right, I gotta think of a 5. 5's not that important. So I already got peanut butter. I already got chocolate chip. I already got Crumble on there. My number 1 was Oreo. Ooh. Thin Mints, the Girl Scout cookies.
Oh my gosh.
For number 5, Thin Mints. Yep, Thin Mints. I don't know how that made it this far, but...
Bro, they're trash.
What?
Thin Mints are garbage,
So which ones do you like, bro?
What?
Which ones do you like?
Are they coconutties? What do they want? The ones with like they're like a little circle and they have like the little coconut flakes on them.
Okay.
And stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Interesting. Looking back on it now, I don't know if I'd go Thin Mints, but I definitely wouldn't go those. I would go with the peanut butter ones, covered in chocolate. So I'm gonna change my number 5 to those. The ones with the caramel and the peanut butter. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I forget what they're called.
Dude,
but...
an honorable mention would be, you ever seen those those little tiny sugar cookies that have like the pumpkins on them for Halloween and then the Christmas trees on them for Christmas, and you just they're all together and you just basically break them apart and put them in the oven.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I forget what they're called, but they are so
a
fire.
little seasonal. They're like the break and bake. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Awesome.
Speaking of honorable mentions, dude, any of the special edition Oreos?
Oh yeah, what were
So like
I don't know
the
why.
Halloween, the
The
seasonal.
Halloween ones
Yeah.
taste different, bro. I swear.
I should
swear they
have
taste
took that for number one, especially because it's spooky season right now. I should have took Halloween Oreos number one.
Zach, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. You're one of my best friends, and I just can't express how grateful I am for you coming on here. I usually leave it with a mantra that you live by, but you kind of already said it with the pressure is privilege. So if you want to go out with anything, I just want to say thank you for being on this with me.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you having me. It was fun. It was a good time. I'm definitely glad you asked me to be a part of this, man.
Of course. Well, I'm glad to have had you. And thank you for all that are listening. We'll have another episode next week, so looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.